If we're going to make a change happen, we're making it for someone, not for everyone. We can't change everyone. And what we have is the chance to realize that systems are either going to work with us or against us. And if we can find a system that amplifies our work, suddenly everything gets easier. It's like having the wind at your back. But if you can't see the system, then you don't know what to do.
And you've written a lot about systems in the book. How do you define systems, and what are the key systems that we need to use and harness in order for us to execute on our strategies?
So much smarter people than I have written about systems, but most people don't read it. Systems are best understood by analogy. So let's begin with the most famous system of all, which is the solar system. Leaving Pluto out of the conversation, the solar system has the Earth rotating around the sun. Doesn't matter what you think is happening, that's what's happening, right? And the Earth doesn't rotate around the sun because it wants to. It does it because there's an invisible force called gravity that keeps pushing it to do so. And if an asteroid shows up in our solar system and doesn't get the joke, it's going to either blow through the solar system and we'll never see it again, or it's going to go to the sun and burn up. These are non-negotiables. This is just how the system works. Now, over time, one could imagine changing a system, but let's acknowledge that there's gravity. So what kind of systems are we talking about? Well, there's the wedding industrial complex. How much should you spend for a wedding? You should spend exactly as much as your best friend and a little bit more. And that's how we got to where we got. That there is an ancient system of patrimony and misogyny that allowed De Beers to invent the diamond engagement ring and turn it into $1 billion industry. They didn't do that from scratch. They did it because the system already existed and they simply altered it. So what we seek to do is try to assert what a system has wanted all along and help it get that thing it wants by doing something differently.
One of the promises of your book is that it's going to help us see our systems, or the system shaping the world, in a different way. What are some of these systems that we should be looking at with a greater amount of scrutiny?
Well, I guess it depends on what you do for a living. You know, neither you nor I are wearing a tie. The system of costumes at work was around for a very long time. And then Levi Strauss changed it on purpose. And they didn't change it by issuing a press release. They changed it by finding a few organizations that wanted to have Casual Friday. And by persistently planting the seeds for what that could become, undid a century of how people dressed at work, right? If we're thinking about the climate, we need to take a hard look at why people eat meat. 25% of the climate problem, 25% is cows. But if you say to someone, don't eat meat anymore, they say, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, why? Right? Well, meat represents status, convenience, affiliation, efficiency. It is subsidized, and you're not going to get someone to radically change how they live their life. However, you probably could organize 20 people and get the local school district to have meatless Mondays at the cafeteria. And that begins to normalize certain behaviors. It begins to create the conditions for status to be associated with something other than a steak, or convenience, something other than a hamburger at that one school on Mondays. And once that works, selling Wednesday isn't that hard. And suddenly we have planted the seeds to begin changing a system that still wants status and convenience and affiliation, but isn't going to get it by eating meat.